You know what Kevin loves? Eating. You know what Kevin's doing? Getting married. I'm not saying the two are connected, but maybe if you use our sponsor, Blue Apron, to eat, someone will love you. Blue Apron. I wrote this ad again. Blue Apron makes cooking simple and delicious. Each week, they send you pre-portioned ingredients. You follow the step-by-step instructions. Blammo! You've got a dish to be proud of. No more eating out of the trash, YouTube user Matt Bell. They got warmed smoked trout and asparagus salad with fingerling potatoes, garlic croutons this month, man. Stop eating out of the trash. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Greggy. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. That's blueapron.com/Greggy. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And stop eating out of the trash, YouTube user Matt Bell. Paul Joyce, what's your topic?
Thank you, Greg. So my topic is a deep philosophical one, cunningly disguised as a question about Star Wars.
Okay. Love it.
So my question is, does canon matter? And the reason I ask it is, obviously there was a lot of furore around when Disney bought the Star Wars franchise, that they deleted the whole extended universe.
Yeah.
And my question was, firstly, does it matter? And who should decide what is and isn't canon? And do we actually need somebody else to tell us what is canon? So, for example, in Star Wars, I refuse to believe that Boba Fett's background was Jango. You know,
but it was. And have you heard about midichlorians?
My view is that, I can take what I want from that.
Sure.
If I want the extended universe to be what happened, and I hate to break it, none of these things actually happened.
Shut your fucking English mouth, my friend.
Shall I get in a galaxy far away?
We filmed those over in your neck of the woods, okay? So if you want that
we
shit to
threw
come
you
over
some
here.
business, some shillings. This is how you're going to repay us?
No, plywood. So I suppose my question is, do we need somebody else to tell us? Whose right is it to tell us what is and isn't canon? Because clearly Disney bought it and decided they were going to change their minds. Is it up to, in Star Wars case, George Lucas as the inventor and an originator of Star Wars? I mean, it's just a more broad question, is that do we need to be told what is and isn't canon, and does it really matter?
I do love that Lucas and Disney have their own historian who is the holocron keeper. What's his name?
Is that something from Transformers, the holocron?
No. It's also from Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, good.
So he is the
overlap.
Oh God, I was about to pee in a bit too.
Well, bring me a beer.
You go first. I'll bring you a beer. You want another beer?
Oh yeah, I love a beer. Thanks.
You want a Red Bull?
No, thank
Give
you.
him a Red Bull! Red Bull American
Is that the Red Bull?
Yeah, he's hanging 10.
But it was also the Crocodile Dundee for our good friend over here.
Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, we got that Crocodile Dundee here,
So one of my
cultural appropriation right there.
My former roommate, he is the biggest Star Wars nerd of all time. And he actually wants to become the next holocron person, historian or whatever.
When that guy dies.
Yeah, whenever.
Is that how it passes?
Well, they're gonna try to kill him. That's the thing.
Oh my God! That's a movie right there.
Okay,
that's a good movie.
That's a good. Yeah, call Kevin Smith, Kevin. Okay.
That feels like a kind of 80s flick, doesn't it? I mean, like Weekend at Bernie's.
What was the movie? What was the movie where the kid had cancer and so they tried to sneak into Lucasfilm to watch? Where they tried to sneak into Lucasfilm to. Did you watch Phantom Menace? Yeah, you remember this?
Yeah.
That was a fun movie. Anyway, sorry.
That sounds like a documentary, actually.
That was a good movie.
Okay. Do I think canon matters? I like the idea that there is an arbiter at Disney saying, this is what is fucking real, this is what's not real.
This is what happened.
It's just like some weird authoritarian thing that I think is really awesome. Now, are you, so when Grand Admiral Thrawn was brought back in Rebels, were you like
Fanboys.
as jacked up as everybody else was? I don't. Oh, that's the name of the.
Yeah, the movie's called Fanboys.
I thought you were calling us fanboys.
Sorry, my apologies.
So when Thrawn was brought back, did that come as a shock to you because he was part of the EU and that was like essentially like decimated or whatever? So was that something that excited you?
So I suppose it started to occur to me when they just decided that 2 days ago this was all canon. 2 days later, well, no, we bought the company. We
Wait,
can do what the hell we
I had a
like.
quick question. Was
Hold on.
was
They kept on
was
canon.
the EU ever canon? I don't think it actually was. I think it was just widely accepted as good fan fiction.
Yeah, okay.
and distributed. But
So-
I don't think it was actually ever been like, oh, this is canon.
So I suppose this is kind of my bigger point, is that to me, I think you can read as widely as you like, and you should kind of take what you want from it. That's just my personal view. You can, if you like that, you like to believe that this is the way, Vader came to be, or the background of Yoda, or Boba Fett's background, whatever it might be. I kind of feel like I should be able to decide and pick and choose.
Sure.
I kind of like the idea that I don't need to be told by somebody else which of these I can take and which of these I can disregard. So whether the extended universe ever was canon was sort of, it sort of feels irrelevant to me. I want to be able to take what I like, because I want to feel a little bit, and this is where the philosophical bit comes into it. I want to feel like kind of master of my own destiny.
Sure.
Like, I want to be able to pick and choose. I don't feel the need to assign that responsibility to an authoritarian figure, but I completely understand why people do. And it probably wasn't until that happened. I would just say, oh, that was canon. Okay, well, so that's what happened. That's the background. That's the origin of Spider-Man. That's the origin of Deadpool, whatever it might be. I kind of, as I've got older, kind of like the idea that I actually can disregard or regard whichever elements I
hate
want.
that idea. I hate that idea.
Really?
yeah.
So really quick before I go pee,
Nick
It's
isn't
just
even
me,
back yet.
I wait for Nick to get back.
And I was
Yeah.
going into a
Tactic.
long thing. You could have gone right
Well, so
there, but
I
you
knew-
want to steal the limelight.
I could tell you were going to go into the comics realm of all this stuff, and
Maybe.
I wanted to hit that before you were
Bit of
able
arm
to do
I mean,
that.
I'm keeping in them. I'm going to keep with Star Wars, but go ahead.
So for someone who
You can do something you know about, Greg, if you like.
Watto,
I know a lot about Star Wars, guys.
Hey.
so for someone
And the
who doesn't have time to digest all of this shit that is thrown out into the world, whether it's books or comics or web series or shorts or whatever, I am the type of person who, even when I think of, if I'm told to read a Star Wars book or a novel, and if it's not part of the universe, I immediately go to, well, that shit's not real.
it's a waste of time.
Yeah, why am I going to read like a
Yeah.
fan story or whatever? So I immediately, I do think that it's important to have canon, and that's the stuff that I will follow. Whenever I ask for people about comic book recommendations, which is very rarely, I will often ask, what are the stories that like really fucking matter? I don't want this offshoot series of Spider-Man where nobody read it and it's like 2 comics or 3 comics long or whatever. I want like the definitive truth.
Sure.
I know the
I think
definitive truth is like been told by 18 different people or whatever, but I still would rather know what's the closest to real thing that exists out there.
And who do you think defines that for you? Who is the arbiter of that?
I guess friends or
Truth.
recommendations,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when it comes to
Yeah, yeah, no, okay, yeah, yeah,
so
okay.
Star Wars isn't necessarily like comics. I mean, a million people haven't retold different versions of Star Wars. It's
Yeah.
comics. There's all these different authors.
See, and that's my thing, is that with Star Wars, I feel like there needs to be an arbiter because that universe is so vast. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that this is what Star Wars is. We're basing off these 3 movies and everything happened. And I mean, as an outsider, I thought the EU was canon. So if it wasn't, it was just widely accepted, okay.
Yeah.
But all the same, that if everything, Rebels and all these different shows are tying into it, I think there needs to be somebody because they made that decision that everything's going to be canon, right?
Continuity, yeah.
Right. For me, does canon matter in comics has always been the thing. I'm always pro blowing up canon. I don't think there should be a DC universe. I think that there should be Max Landis's Landisverse, and if he wants to come back and tell stories in it, great. If somebody else is like, hey, I'd love to tell a story in that universe because I want to use your Clark Superman, great. I think it fucks up comics more than anything because people are like, oh, where should I jump in? And I'm like, oh, read this, that, and that.
Yeah.
But I also think that the fact that comics have been so shattered and there are so many different Elseworlds and continuities and pre-crisis and post-crisis and New 52 and then just stories that are told, Superman for all seasons. I think that makes it easier to answer your question. We're like, give me a badass book or whatever. I'm like, here you go. And then it's the example of yesterday leaving Wonder Woman. Sean Finnegan asked me, he's like, hey, did you watch the Supergirl finale? And I'm like, no, I'm too busy. And he's like, oh, well, did you see anything from him? I'm like, yeah, I know, spoilers, she fights Superman. He's like, yeah, and she beat him, and then they were having a conversation, and Superman was like, no, I was fighting at full power. And I was like, and this is Sean, he's like, I didn't think Supergirl was more powerful than Superman, but I looked around the internet, and I couldn't get it. And I'm like, it all depends on what continuity and what story you're reading, and blah, blah. And if that's when it's like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's so many comic book stories and so many interpretations of characters there that I'm fine with it. And it doesn't have to be like Star Wars where I feel like there's one universe you're playing in.
Yeah, and I quite like that idea that you can just tell your own story and you don't need to, if you're going to write a story for that, go back and research because you get into that situation where somebody who's read a lot of the comic book says, oh, well, in issue 753, Superman didn't have this power, and then in 857 he did. You can actually just say, well, look, it doesn't matter. These are just different tellings of the same idea, of the same concept.
Yeah.
And I quite like that idea that you can have, like, you don't have to then, like Marvel did, create the Secret Wars where the Marvel universe and the Ultimate Universe collide and it explodes and creates. You can just say, well, this exists and this exists and these
and that's
exist.
the Achilles heel of continuing comic books and a canon of comic books is the fact that inevitably you get to a point where it's like, all right, cool. Like I was catching up on Spider-Gwen on a plane recently, right? And it's like I'm having a great time, and oh hey, Spider-Woman and Silk are in this issue, and I finished that, and that last page is get the next thing in Silk, and then the next one in Spider-Woman, and then back to Spider-Gwen, and it's like, well, I just have Spider-Gwen, and that's all I want to read, and that's all I bought. And so I'm jump back to the next Spider-Gwen. It's like so much has happened. I'm trying to catch up on it, and it happens in DC all the time too. That's why I love the idea of what I've always wanted is get an artist and get a creator and be like, you have 12 books. Tell your Superman story. And they get to say, it's in this continuity, it's in that continuity. Great. But they don't have to worry about tying it into some big event. Yeah. But like movies, where I'm like, I don't understand why they do it this way, how they do the promotion, blah, blah. Apparently, the events work. The events get headlines. Hey, we're doing a crossover.
Some
it is
books,
this. It is. I think that Justice League vs. Suicide Squad was a great example of it, of just like, hey, there's this event and it's its own thing. And I think there were some tie-ins, but it wasn't like it wasn't trying to contain that arc in Superman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad where I had to read all these different books to get to where I wanted to be.
Well, I quite like it when I remember Nick and Tim talking about La La Land and about what, how do you interpret the ending of that film?
Sure.
And I quite like the idea that actually there isn't an answer to that question, that you can interpret it how you see fit. I mean, you can ask the director what their view was, but actually it's up to every individual viewer. There wasn't a right answer to that question.
Sure.
And I like that idea that we have that our own agency to decide what we like. I know a lot of people stopped watching Star Wars because they felt that ruined it, the fact that the extended universe was no longer canon, or certain elements happened in the prequels they didn't like.
Let's be clear.
With all due respect, those people kept watching Star Wars.
Okay. There's maybe one or two people who are like, I'm not going to go see The Force Awakens. And then they fucking went. I guarantee they went, and they cried when they saw the Millennium Falcon like I did too.
But, or it ruined it for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. But, and there are some great stories out there. And yeah, I think Andy hit the nail on the head where I think a lot of people like to know what they're supposed to care most about. And especially with comics, there's so many different variants of everything that it's nice to have at least some sort of guide of like, well, this is the thing that kind of matters, and this is the story that's just kind of fun and one-off. But I do think that, like, while I believe that canon matters, I don't think that it matters as much as everyone thinks it should. For like the main Star Wars 9 movies, right? I think that's important to have those go and all make sense together, right? To have some level of continuity, and that is canon, right? But I also don't think that it matters necessarily. Like for instance, with Marvel, the Marvel movies. Like, I don't think that they necessarily have to worry too much about making a Logan movie and have it really, really tie into everything that came before it, everything that's going to come after, right? Like, I know it's hard, and I know it's hard because you're getting audiences that are kind of fair weather mainstream fans in a lot of these movies. Like, you want to appeal to people who don't necessarily know that Wolverine is in the same universe really as Spider-Man. But I think that you do kind of stifle creativity in that regard.
Yeah.
But you can have so much fun with it too, is what it's great.
Of course.
That was the thing. I watched Honest Trailers, the Honest Trailer for Logan, and I didn't even realize, because I mean, like, the Wolverine solo movies for the most part were fun popcorn flicks or whatever they left, with the exception of Origins, which was garbage. But spoilers, I guess, for the end of Logan, which I thought was funny when they put in there. Whatever. Anyways, the Honest Trailer made the joke that back in the Wolverine was the one in Japan.
The Wolverine was Japan,
One of the mutants touches him to see his future and says, "You die with your heart in your hands." And then that was a callback. It foreshadowed that in Logan that he dies holding Laura's hand. And like I was like, nice, that's fucking awesome. And I never even and like for me it meant so much more that it was like Patrick Stewart and it was my X-Men that they totally fucked up and then kind of just fixed. And it was like, great, all right, cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Cool.
Like when you're dealing with a universe that's just movies or just something, I think it's easy to be like, all right, cool, this is what it is.
Right.
And I can
But-
imagine Kevin Feige sitting there and having. I like the fact he has a plan, and I like the fact he has a continuity across a range of films. But it's that kind of broader idea, I think, that you know. Oh, I don't like that element, and therefore it's just going to ruin the whole thing.
Like another great example of continuity working, I think. And again, these are simplified situations in Star Wars. Star Wars is Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's fucking movies and TV and toys and cartoons and blah, blah. I love the fact of like the CW universe, watching Flash, and when they changed the timeline, I on the morning show reached out to Arrow fans and I was like, did that get reflected in Arrow? Because I'm not watching. And like, yeah, this changed. Like, that's fucking rad.
That's cool.
That just changed. And like, it's like one of those
because
things.
Dig had a daughter
Yeah,
first.
and it's like one of those. I think it might have been the opposite.
Opposite.
No, you're right. You're right. I think it was a girl and then it became a boy. But it's the same thing of like, I'm sure that was weird for Arrow fans. I guess maybe not because they probably got introduced when the Flash came through. Because I watched that crossover episode, but whatever.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool to have an official continuity. I think it's cool to have an official canon because it allows you to do stories that we haven't seen before, right? I mean, you have to. You can't have Avengers without the 8 movies that built into Avengers. I think there are 8, and you can't have those without some level of someone watching over there and saying this is official, like canon, right? There's at least a level of continuity that we're all going to say, okay, this is for the movie universe. This is official. I think it can backfire though, in terms of things like Star Wars, because I honestly believe the original trilogy and the next 2 films are going to be great, but I'd fucking love if they had the balls to be like, you know what? Let's remake the trilogy. Let's remake the prequels. Let's just go back and retcon those out and just remake them because, everyone's like canon matters, but in reality, like nothing from that series really matters. And if you watch closer, you're like, there's a lot of things that they're just not like.
I haven't seen a Metachlorian count in quite a while.
Exactly, things like that,
Been
right?
a while.
No one's there like with their.
Like no one's
That'd be
mad.
great.
No
Wouldn't
one's
that be great
talking
though?
about Jin
Last
anymore.
trailer starts though, and like he's putting her Ray through all these trials, and he's like, "Let me see your Metachlorian count."
You know what? You're it's not going to be good
Do a
enough.
blood
We need you
test
to
and
run
just-
around a little more so you get faster.
You have like 14 less midichlorians than Yoda did. So
Sorry,
technically-
so Yoda's going to kick
Just
your
don't
ass.
bother.
But I think that at a certain point, holding too firmly to that can yield bad results as well, right? No, I don't think there's going to be. Well, maybe there's 1 or 2 Star Wars fans out there that are like, I fucking love the prequels. But I think that if you were to tell the average Star Wars fan who's my age that, hey, we're going to remake those, they'd be like, thank God.
But you would
Please
piss
get
off a
Joss
lot of
Whedon to do
kids
it.
who grew up on them, who did
Yeah,
like
but then
them.
they'd get more Star Wars, and they'd probably be like, who gives a fuck?
And then I suppose what
They'd
happens
have,
if
they'd have the
fans.
Razor scooters. They'd be fine.
what happens if somebody else buys it from Disney and then just decides
No one's got
to
enough
No
throw
one
it
has
up
that
and
much money.
Well, let's just
Maybe
probably-
Amazon or
it's-
Google.
but
It's
it's possible.
Or somebody else comes in and says,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
actually, I've changed. Who is that arbiter?
Let's hope it's not DC.
Well, you can understand when
Warner
it's
Bros.
when it's somebody
Trust
who
me, they're next to get bought by Disney, which will be fucking weird.
DC would be awesome.
I
They'll
know.
work on it. They'll just destroy it and do it again.
I know it'll, and then we'll get the crossover Access movie. It'll be fucking rad. Remember Access, of course.
Yeah, who
Remember,
fucking
because
forgot?
it was a homeless guy that controlled the power to go between DC Marvel universe, and then he gave it to a guy named Access who had a really weird outfit that he could go between, and then the Alagma universe happened, but they separated that, and then it turned out both universes were ruled over by giant mechs. It was weird. They
Was
shook
that
hands
canon?
though. Yeah, well, that's canon.
As long as
well,
they
I mean,
don't-
before it got blinked out 4 times ago.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine with Disney buying DC as long as they don't redo Suicide Squad because that's a perfect film.
When you win an Oscar, what are you gonna do?
It's a flawless film, Nicholas.
But now to double back, and I guess
I'm not even gonna.
to your point of like, I'll just
engage in that.
ignore that, right?
Yeah.
This is a minor Wonder Woman spoiler. But if you've been paying attention to anything leading up to this movie or know the basics of most Wonder Woman continuity, it's not. Okay? Cool.
Give it
she
to me.
fucks Chris Pine.
She fucks a man. That's not where I was going. No, the fact that she's a god, right? That she is Zeus. Zeus is real. All the gods of Olympus were real. So the gods of our planet were. This is like for me in DC universe.
Like Greek mythology or
When comic
Roman
books
mythology,
happen,
yeah.
I can't get into Wonder Woman's story because of that. Even in the New 52 run, that was amazing. I started reading and it was her dealing with like all the Greek gods. I'm like, I just can't do it. And so I'm able to shut that down and ignore it. She shows up in Justice League. She's got powers. She's dating Superman. But the Superman Wonder Woman series I did love. They only toyed around with a little bit of him having to deal with Ares and stuff like that. Great. But in a universe that is like, our reacts is up by the time this posts. In a universe where they had a chance to make it all pretty grounded. And that's what they said they wanted to do. To then jump to this movie now that is canon, that is the 3rd or 4th now DC Universe movie that's just like, yep, and gods exist. It's like, but I already had to get over magic existing in Suicide Squad. But
Yeah.
That wasn't a successful thing. So I don't have to worry.
But Suicide Squad, they implemented magic so perfectly and seamlessly. It's just such a good
Don't
movie,
fucking
man.
Who do you think-
stare deeply into my
Who do you
eyes
think
and say
Tattoo Man's
this
going to be? He's got a huge role in
rubbish.
this. Common's got a huge role in this movie.
rubbish.
I watched that Reacts again like 2 or 3 days ago, and it was.
The Suicide Squad?
Yeah,
Reacts?
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember what
And
we
then the
said. I
Batman v
can't-
Superman one.
It's dead quiet.
it's
We
just-
open a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah, you just look at each other with the.
I sat in my
Sadness.
fucking car for like 20 minutes, just like sitting there, right? And again, this goes back to topic number 1. Why do we tear people down? Just like, I don't want to tear the people down. Just this movie. Oh my God. It just really, really depressed me.
Yeah.
And
Because it was just a miss.
it was just
Again-
such a mistake.
Again, I don't think we tore the movie down. I think there was a lot of constructive criticism of why the movie didn't work for us. And I think that we're not in the minority on that. I'm pretty sure everyone that went and saw that movie was like, yeah, we agree that it had no plot and we didn't care about any of the characters. And it's really hard to make all these villains likable people because by definition of what they're supposed to be, they're not supposed to be likable. But
To the point where I was like, well, that was fucking $28. Like the food that I bought and everything at that. And it was like a shitty.
That was the worst thing for us is that you weren't here. You weren't part of the company yet. But that was the thing where we went to Alamo. We were super excited.
oh, God.
The pre-show started and the power went out. And we were like, fuck. And then we had people with us, friends or
It was
whatever.
an omen.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of
and
there.
it was the rare occasion we had gotten Colin there. We had gotten Colin to the Alamo
man.
to watch this movie. And it was like, fuck. And it was this thing. They finally came out and they were just like, hey.
Decided ran out.
Yeah, he said it was a sign and left and everything. But the power was out, and it was
boy.
that thing of like, well, what do we do? And it's like, we're gonna go. We found tickets at Tan Fran. We're going to Tan Fran. We got an Uber SUV, paid
Ate at
way too
Hooters.
much, got there, ate at Hooters, had really mediocre wings, and went and saw this movie. And it was just like, fuck, come on, you know
It was
what I
just
mean?
disappointing, wasn't it? It was. Yeah, it was just a letdown.
Right,
Yeah.
but there's a perfect example of someone that like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go back to I guess that is canon, but like continuity wise, like you just don't have the right arbiter of that. You don't have the right person or people or team looking over and making sure that these things got off to the right start. And that's why, honestly, like if Disney were to buy DC and totally
the best
destroy
thing
this, it'd be the
possible.
fucking best thing imaginable.
Because I mean, here's the thing: is like Warner Brothers is in a corner now. They can't nuke it.
No,
they can't admit
they
defeat.
can't.
They have to try to fix it over and over again. And Wonder Woman
stuck
now
with
is
Batfleck forever.
Wonder Woman's, and that's a good thing. Ben, don't do this. Stick around.
he wants out.
I know he does.
He wants out. He doesn't
Oh,
want
wow,
that
so they
fucking David
say.
Cal anymore.
That's stupid.
So this is the question: should they accept what's come before and create things that follow on, or should they just say, "I want to create some good movies and create the best movies they can"? And so that I suppose the question about
Yeah.
Canon is that. Wouldn't they be better to
here's
create
what-
the best next movie, whatever that might be, rather than say, well, okay, so we've already set this up in this way, so we're going to have to follow
No,
that.
that's a
It's-
great point. That's a really, really great point.
Here's what I think they should do: recast Batman, make a standalone, non-canonical Batman movie, and if it does well, like get a great team together, get however the next Christopher Nolan is.
$30 trillion.
Yeah.
I don't say give Christopher Nolan. I say give a Kevin Smith or a Joss Whedon or a J.J. Abrams.
Honestly, the answer that
$100
nobody
million.
wants to hear is give Landis it.
Or give Landis it, right?
How
And-
great was Chronicle? How great was American Alien?
Yeah.
Do this again. Do this for the DC Cinematic Universe. Fucking blow it all up and give us Batman
Sure.
or Superman.
So this is what I think they should do. Subversively, like, hey, we're just doing a one-off thing. It's not Batfleck. It's a different Batman, different team, different style, different movie. Like it's just for fun and shits and giggles. It's the Logan of or the Deadpool of the DC franchise. And then if that does well, you start to slowly sculpt the franchises around that. And let the rest.
I mean,
of the
this would be
universe go
another.
away.
This would be honestly, this would be a huge departure because it's not how Hollywood works, but it's how the internet works and it's how our culture works and everything else. It'd be huge to see them just come out and be like, "Hey, we heard you. These movies weren't great." I mean, David Goyer's statement I thought was awesome, right? The one we put out about Suicide Squad,
was
where he's
that?
like,
Oh yeah,
yeah," or maybe it was
David Ayer.
I'm sorry.
Ayer.
Yeah. Where he's like, hey, yeah, I wouldn't, maybe I would have, if I had known what I know now, I'd go back and I wouldn't do it that. It wouldn't be a world ending threat they're facing. It would have been, and like, I think that humbleness is what works for us so well. And the fact that, hey, we're just morons making content we want to share with you. And so to have a press conference that is wave whatever, but you bring everybody in and you're like, hey, everybody, we heard you. We missed the mark. We're going forward. Wonder Woman will continue to do her thing, but now we are making a new Superman movie. This is Superman, that's Batman. They aren't connected. They aren't a thing. This first of all,
But if
What-
it works
for
out, we'll make
Christ's
it a
sake.
thing.
Why try to copy Marvel and do it 2 steps behind, or arguably not as well? Why not break off and do it in your own way, in a way that you think will be successful?
Because
for the
because
characters you've
this is
got?
the whole thing I think with you see with Hollywood, right? Is the way you see with Hollywood really is just like trying to capitalize on what has worked before.
Yeah,
Everybody wants proven winners.
seen that,
No
yeah.
one wants to take a chance.
Right.
No one wants to do
That's
this.
what I'm saying. I think the big mistake that WB made was that they were trading off the fact that they were hoping Man of Steel would be amazing, and it unfortunately fell short.
And if it would have been that trailer, it would have been amazing.
What's that?
It would have been that trailer. It would have been amazing.
If they had just played the trailer, they had played that trailer for fucking 2.5 hours. I'd have like,
Just
and I'd have walked out because I
Yeah.
cry every time. I still watch that trailer sometimes when no one's watching me.
Yeah.
Not the fucking dad version. I watched
Jor-El version.
The Jor-El version,
Yeah.
of course.
I know exactly what you're talking
I mean, I just saw Christopher Nolan producing. I know that's producers, whatever, right? That name doesn't really mean much
Sure.
in the film
Clearly.
world. But seeing Christopher Nolan as someone who doesn't care about Superman, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be there fucking day one, dude.
about. Yeah.
The thing is, and that's what I'm saying. You look at the Batman franchises, and with some interesting choices in the '90s, there's been some really good Batman movies, right? Like there have been far more good Batman movies than Superman movies. I say you start with a stellar standalone Batman tale, and see where we go. Don't make it about the Joker. Let's not get back into that trap again. We've already seen that. Let's fucking give the Riddler some time to shine. Let's give the Penguin some time to shine. Get in there, do it in a style that is very noir and cool and fucked up, and then you do the complete opposite with Superman.
Yes.
Because Superman needs to be about the sun and fucking
And
vibrant
bright
blue colors
colors. Yeah,
and not killing people.
And Jiminy
Batman
Jolly.
needs to also be about not killing people, because that's a terrible choice that I would have totally fucking vetoed in the room if I could have, but I'm nobody. And go from there, man. I honestly think we're only going to get, I think Wonder Woman, and I'm with you, I thought Wonder Woman was a good film. I think that's the best we're going to get.
Paul, you had a great. This is a great
this
topic
topic
of how to
totally-
pick DC, how to make DC better. It's a great topic.
Oh man, who would have thunk we'd bring that
record this and
back?
send this to Jeff Johns.
Don't worry.
Is this
I mean,
am I canon to Kind of Funny?
You are.
You're canon,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
Your
Yeah.
face too. That's interesting though. But I would love to see
Cool
what those
Greg's
guys-
extended universe.
But I would love to sit with Jeff Johns and those guys and Joe Quesada and all those guys that are quasi in charge of this and be like, what do you think of all these things that are going on? Candidly, do you guys have a lot of power in these? Because
Well, I mean,
I've
that's the
seen
whole
great stories
problem.
come from those guys.
That's the whole problem. And what was my worry with Wonder Woman is that it was after Batman v Superman. They're like, all right, something's wrong. Jeff Johns is being peeled off of comic books, and he's going to go
Try to fix this,
be
yeah.
on film, which is great with the exception that
That's right, he became
Suicide
the Kevin
Squad
Feige, right?
was already way gone, and Wonder Woman was already way gone.
But
and so it's like,
You're putting sticking plasters on.
can you fix? And so then it is Justice League. I don't know how much there was there, but then you figure whatever comes after Justice League, which I assure you will not be Cyborg, as the Cyborg actor tried to tell you.
But maybe this is good, right? If Jeff Johns came on to really kind of shepherd Wonder Woman, good sign.
But I think
Not bad.
I don't know that.
It
I
was
think
a good
Wonder Woman was
movie.
already done.
You think it was already
I think
done?
Wonder Woman was already. I think that's the train has left the station on
I feel
those.
I really feel like that. I mean, and it's unfortunate because Zack Snyder had to leave Justice League for some family
Yeah.
problems. But bringing in Joss Whedon to finish that film.
Well, I mean, it's the exact same thing, right?
let's go.
There are
Give him the next
underpinnings
one.
of what's fucking happening
Give him
here, where
Batman.
everybody's like, Aquaman's happening, right? And Aquaman's Mira already looks different than Mira in Justice League. Why? Because I think Jeff Johns is there and he fucking wrote Aquaman, and that's what his Mira looks like. I'm sure they're trying to double down on that. And then it's the thing of only the Cyborg actor at some random fucking panel is like, the movie's still happening, right? No, what you're hearing about is that there's a Batgirl movie coming from Joss Whedon.
Oh, fuck,
It's like,
that would be
yeah,
so fucking
guess what's
cool.
happening, everybody? These are the movies they're correcting, but they're not saying, and that Shazam thing. Sorry, Dwayne Johnson.
And I'm hoping. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, Paul.
I was only going to say that's what Marvel seemed to have done so well is they said, get great actors, get great directors, make great movies. And then that kind of built. You take an Iron Man, you take a Captain America, you take a Guardians, and then you build it from there. And I think, Nick, your point is exactly right, that you create a great Batman film. You create a great Superman film. You create a great Wonder Woman
let's
film.
focus on those first.
You then it starts to get some momentum. The ball starts to attract some speed, and then you can do other things. You can do more difficult things like Marvel did with Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one knew Guardians before.
Yeah,
And you can do the same.
That's astounding. The success that they've seen with Guardians just blows my mind.
Which is so weird to me because if you remember when Edgar Wright left Ant-Man, and even Joss Whedon, when he left the Marvel franchise, it was the idea that they're making us shove too much stuff in these movies that aren't ours. They want them
Same
to be
with Jon Favreau.
They want us to be the
They're
Marvel
controlling.
cookie cutter thing, and Guardians so isn't. So what does that mean, I wonder, to them, to a director? And then again, back to Batgirl, what is WB promising Joss Whedon? They're just like, do whatever the fuck
Well,
you
see,
want.
that's what I'm hoping.
I hope so.
I was about to make that point earlier. I hope that Joss Whedon is saying, hey, look at Avengers 1 and 2. Avengers 2, I was very limited, and there's all the stories about what Marvel kind of made him do, and made
I got to make this next movie happen.
fast.
Right.
Same
And
with Iron Man too.
They were very controlling with the production of Avengers 2. So I hope that he tells DC, kind of like Hideo Kojima's doing with Sony, like, hey, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to tear this shit up. It's going to be fucking awesome.
You imagine they
Just
are,
step off.
You think,
know?
but the problem
Yeah.
is DC's in a different spot, right? You remember when he was, they had Iron Man, the Iron Man franchise up and running. They had the Avengers series was awesome, right? When they all came together, Avengers, we had Captain America that was they were in a very successful place that they could take risks. DC is not in that place. They cannot take risks. They have to fucking knock everything out of the park. Remember, they don't have, they have Fantastic Beasts now, but they don't have that mega Harry Potter franchise anymore. So they need these DC movies to come through. And again, we're all splitting hairs. It's not, these movies may not be critical successes, but they're all making $1 billion a piece.
Yeah.
So there is that. But yeah, where I think when they got to Ant-Man and they got to Guardians of the Galaxy, they were like, cool, we've fucking knocked it out of the park, or at least won every game we've played so far. Let's give James Gunn a chance, and let's let him just fucking be himself. Let's let him make Slither in space or whatever the fuck he's gonna do, and see what happens, right? And they trust him with that, and that's great. But I also think that there are a lot more. I just think that Kevin Feige really kind of has a grand plan that's a little bit better put together than DC does right now.
But it's sort of like with any company, you have somebody who demonstrates some success, and then people trust them, and then they allow them to be a bit more creative. And the problem
sure, by
DC
the
have
way-
is that they're starting from a position of
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say they're starting from a position of weakness, and they're always trying to catch up. And there's probably somebody with a personal agenda behind the scenes saying, "Oh well, that didn't quite work out. So why don't you do what I said you should do for this next film?" And you have that. Kevin Feige made 2 or 3 great films by luck or by judgment, and then people back him and say, "Well,
Yeah.
Yep.
go in whatever direction, and we're going to give you whatever you need to get the right directors, to get the right actors."
How amazing would it be if instead of what I just suggested,
They made a great movie.
they called back Christopher Nolan? Were like, instead of Dunkirk 2, we need you to make a Superman movie.
World War III.
We need you
Dunkirk 2.
to we need you to make a Superman movie that is in the Dark Knight universe. Go, and that's the DC verse from now on. How amazing would that fucking be?
Well, that's what they should have done. They should have taken the Nolan films and kind of rolled
I'm
with.
sure. Again, I don't know this. I haven't read a lot about it, but I'm sure some exec at Warner was like, "Hey, Chris,
I've got a great idea."
So I know you just wrapped Rises, right?
And it sucked.
It wasn't. I know you're.
It didn't suck.
Are we going to get into that now?
We're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that.
Why does it not
Damn.
suck?
How do I eat if I can't breathe without
Batman, walk out in the concrete light of here. Be in broad daylight. It won't look stupid at all. Oh, throw punches in slow motion that don't
Rises
look
was
good at
good,
all.
man.
but it's during the day.
Oh, torture your only confidant your entire life until he sees you randomly at a table. Oh,
Yeah, you could have just told him. Send him a text message.
oh, why did your knee kick so hard, but it never comes back in the movie? Oh,
has bad
Not canon.
too. Why don't you give him a super knee brace?
oh my God!
No, but-
Fuck rises into the ground.
No,
Batman v Superman is a better movie than The Dark Knight Rises.
I want you to strangle yourself until you can't see the light.
Fuck y'all. Fuck you all.
All kidding aside,
bombshell.
I'm sure at some point they had the conversation with Nolan. I'm sure, that they were like, "Hey, can you shepherd this franchise?" And he's like, "No, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I want to go make real movies." And then he made Interstellar, and everyone's like, "Good choice,
Yeah.
good choice." Because
Good
in
choice,
Inception,
good
that was
choice,
fucking
yeah.
great.
Topic 4.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here. Watch other videos down here. Clicking over here to go to the Patreon and go check out Kinda Funny Games right there. You can click right here and you'll go back and see a very old video. Just say I'm making it up. Put something there. Fuck it. I don't care. Old.